What is up YouTube, Jamie the Kid 00 here, and forgive the quarantine cut and the fact that we ran out of shaving foam about 3 days ago. Today, we're here to talk about my predictions and my top 5 picks to go into and come out of the limited and forbidden list. Let's go. So, opening up my list with my most important pick, we are going to be talking about Crystron Halqifibrax. Halqifibrax, or however you want to say it, is creating the most restrictive format Yu-Gi-Oh! Has seen in a good long while. Its advent coming into the game has really forced a lot of decks into a restrictive and linear playstyle, all bottlenecking together to see if there is any way they can actually create Halqifibrax and then actually take advantage of the special summon it grants them in a very similar way that we saw with Summon Sorceress, but because of the fact that this is now a Link 2, it's even easier to summon, creating so many easier plays requiring just any old tuner, of which a lot of them are already extenders to empower synchros back in the day, and then just any old other monster, even a token. This change also renders itself as an indirect hit to the Eldritch list, which actually I'm going to be leaving quite unscathed on this review. Eldritch at the moment I think is in a position where it could really be in the meta and contested, but because of the combos that allow you to draw 3 for essentially for free, that's just not something that should really be tying into a deck that already has a majority of cards that can for one replace themselves. So I think just hitting Halqifibrax and removing the ability to draw 3 in that deck and create a VFD is good enough for me. Hit number 2 is Block Dragon. There is no deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! That should really ever have access to a Dragon Ruler that allows itself to replace itself on the field as I believe a level 9. I didn't even think about that interaction until just recording this. And also be able to rota for 3 monsters, each of which, or at least the main 2 in the form of Adamantipator Researcher, and I forget the second one, are able to self-replace and potentially summon more rock monsters from the deck. I feel like that's just an easy hit to 0. So, Halqifibrax and Block Dragon to 0, please. My number 3 pick is Mystic Mine. So a lot of people are going to probably raise their eyebrow at this, but I look at Mystic Mine the same way I look at Apologise Towers back in the day. It's a card that exists in the format to slow down combo decks that demands you actually play a policy to out it. And I feel like any card in Yu-Gi-Oh! That's restricted enough to have me do a deck profile and say, hey, this is my Clyfort Towers out, this is my Mystic Mine policy. I feel like any card that works like that is so restrictive in the game, just doesn't really belong in the game. So Mystic Mine realistically should go to 0, and better policies should come into the game to stymie or punish combo boards. My 4th pick is Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. So Dragon Buster Destruction Sword has really become a classic case for the first time in a long while of Yu-Gi-Oh's rules as unintended. I guarantee you that card was designed long before the concept of anything like Union Carrier was ever even devised. Its interaction with Union Carrier breaks its entire card design open. It's a card with an incredibly powerful ability that was created to benefit a deck with really quite subpar monsters, like Buster Blader, which is essentially a 2600 level 7 vanilla. That card really could have been something that could have been solved in a similar way to Mystic Mine, allowing you to play back row removal cards as more of a general policy for a lot of restrictive stuff. However, as we're seeing from a lot of decks, particularly in Adamantipator, that card is being backed up by cards like Boral Savage Dragon, creating huge amounts of protection for it, meaning it's not so simple as, oh okay, I can start to counter my opponent's board if I draw a Galaxy Cyclone. It's really a case that that card is incredibly hard to shift. At least in combos like, say, the Orcust versions, they can play Winder instead, which is a restriction for both players. Buster Sword is only a restriction for your opponent, and it's so difficult to remove, I don't think it really sees a place in Yu-Gi-Oh! In its current guise as a real combo-based game. And then my 5th pick is the only card that I don't really want to see outright removed from the game, but we definitely potentially could. And that card is Soul Eating Oviraptor. Soul Eating Oviraptor is the absolute linchpin of the dinosaur strategy, a deck that only ever gets better format on format as little bits of support come in, and it's only a matter of time until that really reaches a fever pitch. And with the elimination or the removal of power from Adamantipator and Eldritch, in this list we may well see Dinosaur rise entirely to the top, and that's why I think it's due a time for a hit. Oviraptor going to 1 places the deck in a position where it's still very playable. Fossil Dig is at 3, but you can restrict its ability to recur monsters because of Oviraptor's ability to really fix whatever situation you find yourself in. It can either send from the deck, or it can either add to your hand, and it also has its ability to tribute cards to recur cards back from the graveyard, an ability uniquely powerful both going first and going into the later turns of the game. That amount of versatility gives the deck so much power, but it all revolves around one card. Hitting that card restricts the deck and forces it to think in new directions, so I feel like it removes a bit of the linearness from the dinosaur strategy, and also very much limits its power to dominate the format in the absence or vacuum forced by limiting the other decks in the game. So that's my top 5 picks to go. This is really an opinion piece in case you haven't gotten that idea already, but let's get into my top 5 picks, or top 5 picks, to actually come back. So part 1 isn't really a particular card, but it's a subsection of cards that really allows diversity to return to the game that Crystron Halqifibrax really messed up. So honourable mentions to them really fall into Destrudo, Glow Up Bulb, and Blackwing Steam the Cloak, and that is tuners in general. When Halqifibrax came out, a lot of tuners were dictated to actually get hit on the limited and forbidden list, simply due to the fact that they existed and created an incredibly easy mana to make Crystron Halqifibrax. One card dictating that multiple cards get hit on a list has always irked me quite a lot, but I've understood it from a Konami retail perspective of wanting to sell new product rather than continuing to keep older cards in the game. I think this is finally time for Konami to really focus on its player base and remove that card from the game and bring a lot of creativity back in. Destrudo, Glow Up Bulb, and Steam were really in a comfortable place in the metagame when they were hit, so I don't really think it was all that justified outside of the existence of Halqifibrax. So take away Halqifibrax, bring back the more powerful but still, in my opinion, relatively balanced tuner monsters. My number 2 pick would see Tour Guide from the Underworld move from 2 to 3 on the Limited and Forbidden list. And that's because the card really hasn't been doing a huge amount. With the now heavy neutering of Burning Abyss, the card really isn't acting up too much, and that's really the best deck it can play its part in. Increasing it to 3 increases its diversity and consistency, allowing it to see play in other lists, but the worst I can really see it doing at this point is giving you a very easy way into a Link 2 monster and giving you a Sangan search, which isn't massive given Sangan's recent errata. Pick number 3 was something that really raised an eyebrow for me when it was originally struck to 1, and that is ABC Dragon Buster. Seeing that card get hit to 1 in the previous list when we were going into a format where the deck wasn't even really a consideration really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm not sure if Konami overestimated the interactions between Union Carrier and really the deck that it seemed intended for creation with. At the moment, I'm all for a diverse meta, and we really thought this was going to be very diverse of a meta as we went into it, and unfortunately we've now seen that there are really 3 main decks that rise to the top, those being Eldritch, Adamancipator, and Dinosaur. While I'm not really advocating for Dragon Buster to jump straight back to 3 just yet, I do think that the deck should have its time back in the meta. So by returning the card to 2, we can really see how things play out. I don't think, especially with the removal of things like Halqifibrax, the deck will be a top tier contender, but for a lot of the people who are really focused in on that strategy, it gives their decks another lease on life without creating another tier 1 or pure tier 1 strategy in the game. Don't see a reason why the card should stay at 1. My number 4 pick is a card a lot of people will hear me bang on about time and time again, and that is Wind Up Carrier Zen Mighty. I look at a lot of cards on the Limited and Forbidden list, and I really do question why they've been on there for so long. There are multiple cards that really have come back in their time and really aren't causing too much of a problem. And Wind Up Carrier Zen Mighty was a card that has been gone for so long, I think a lot of people forget why it was on the list. And we've really moved on from that point. It was placed on a list because Wind Up was far and away the best combo deck of the format, creating somewhere in the region of +2 advantage off of 2-card combos, which previously was unheard of. We're now in a position where 2-card combos creating +3s and +4 is realistically the norm, and the card is still gone. Having playtested the deck with the concept of it being back at 1, and I believe even the OCG has it back, the deck by and large does nothing. It's more playable, and it's definitely a more fun strategy, increasing the enjoyment your core player base are going to have if they're older players like myself, and I still have the deck as you will have seen in my collection video, but I don't think it's going to immediately be a tier 1 contender. So as a wild card to come back off of the list, I definitely definitely think that's one that Konami really should consider. And then finally, I regret using the word wildcard in my Zen Mighty pitch, because my number 5 really is a controversial wildcard pick. And that is Max C. I'm an advocate of Max C going from 0 to 3. I'd never want to see a format in which it returns to 1 or to 2, and even at 3, this is really a card which I'm a little bit on the fence about. I mentioned in my Mystic Mind pitch that there should be better ways to neuter the combo focus of Yu-Gi-Oh! And maybe bring it back into a bit more of a resource trading game. And the threat, the danger, and the problem that Max C poses in a metagame really does bring that game back in, and I think that's an effect we've seen in the OCG, a list that has a limited forbidden list that allows for far more creativity and comboing than our list does, but a format that sees a lot of neutering of that strategy, or at least a bit of controlling in the form of Maxi combined with hand traps that the Maxi would want to draw into. Leaving the card at 3 never leaves you in a position wherein you're like, oh great, they drew their one Maxi. And of course, cards like Call by the Grave continue to be an out for that selectively as well. I think the card being back at 3 really puts you in a questionable position of, am I going to combo off and give my opponent resources, therefore kind of creating that even playing field of negations and outs, and really removes the power of a die roll format. Conversely, it's a death knell card if someone is able to draw into it having already completed their combo. Say if a situation in which Maxi came off the list to 3, but Halkir Fibrax stayed in the game. We couldn't really have a situation like that because with the VFD draw combo and plays like that, the ability to create a board and draw Maxi would be far too powerful. So I think a little bit of neutering and then a little bit of improving on anti-combo policy really brings the whole system together to bring the game back again into a little bit more of a resource trade situation. So guys, that was my top 5 picks on what can come back from and what can go onto the Yu-Gi-Oh! Limited and Forbidden list. I apologise to any Americans that I woke up by posting this. I'm potentially putting it up quite early just to skip any chance of another list going up before this goes live. I hope you have all enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think is going to be hit or come back off of the Limited and Forbidden list. And also give me a like if you did enjoy this video, enjoyed the format and the way I'm recording this. We'll definitely try and do this again if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are new here and share this with your friends if you want them to join in the conversation. Hope you've all enjoyed. I've been Jamie the Kid 00, and I'll see you guys very, very soon with some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Related content. Peace out. Bye-bye.